with you once again, Tata Eric Colon. You guys have been requesting Eric Colon for a while, and this time he reached out, and I'm like, took the opportunity. I took the opportunity, and I was like, oh hell yeah, people have been asking for you. Let's go, let's do this.
Might as
So
well, right?
yeah, I mean, it works perfectly. So as you know, I don't have to introduce Tata Eric Colon unless he wants to introduce himself. I've done
No,
many
everybody.
lives with him.
I know
Uh,
people don't.
so, Eric, welcome back to the live, my YouTube channel. Thank you for being here.
Thank you
And the
for
floor
having
is
me.
yours.
Thank you for having me. First off, I just want to thank everyone that is joining and people that probably have tuned in to all my TikTok stuff and Facebook in the past. Just want to thank everyone who's here and stuff. You know, uh, we're uh, we're broadcasting this live. I think we're wanting to talk a little bit more about Palo Mayombe, um, and the influences that came from the intermeshing of our practice, because people think that Palo Mayombe comes directly from Africa, and the ideology comes from Africa, right? The Nkisi worship and the Bantu people were part of that major construct of what Palo Mayombe is. But a lot of people don't realize that the Native American understanding with the Aboriginal Tainos that were in the island brought forth this kind of merging of different ideologies. And then, of course, later on, with the European influences, you know, brandishing steel and using cauldrons and things of that nature, it became kind of like a marriage of sorts. It's a lot of people don't understand that Palo Mayombe is the first New World religion in in uh, in Cuba.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, I hear you. I'm just typing and letting everybody knows in the other social media. So don't think I'm not paying attention. I'm looking at
oh,
the
no, no,
computer
no,
and
no,
typing
no!
the
It's
link.
good. I'm looking at the comments. I
Okay.
saw somebody in my tenda said "Salamalonga, Malongo Yaya, Maleku Sala." Just and so I think one of the major factors that happens is that a lot of people don't know that Palo Mayombe is very intermeshed into a Native American or Native understanding from Latin America, all the way down from Mexico, all the way up into South America. Um, all the fauna, all the trees, all the herbs. And we get into this whole understanding of how the first Bantu came over, because people think that they just took a boat and just landed in Cuba. You know, um, Maritime trade and the different currents in the ocean had to. It took time for Africans to get into the New World. It
Hmm.
just wasn't that they just came and took a route straight from Africa into Cuba. They had to go via from Africa into Brazil, and from Brazil they chartered boats out of Brazil into the Americas. Into the different places, into modern day Hispaniola, which was Dominican Republic slash Haiti. Um, and Puerto Rico and the different Virgin Islands and things of that nature. And I think a lot of times people forget about that. They think they have this ideology that the slaves just came, via one boat, and they were there and that was it. And the influences that came with them.
Hmm.
So
My understanding was that this practice, because I don't call it a religion, I call it a practice, right?
yeah,
And I
exactly.
respect everyone's opinion. For me, it's not a religion. Hey, Malekum Bakwenden Sara, que Sambia Lokutara, con mucho más y many, everybody. Is that,
Malongo yaya, malongo ntima yaya.
yeah, it's that, yes, the roots are Africans, right? There's no denying that. But once they hit the islands, it started mixing with other cultures, other belief system. It mixed with the Tainos. It mixed with Christianity. It mixed with the Spaniards. It mixed with the French. And then on top of that, it mixed with all the different tribes that were together. So now it's a new thing that was born in that island.
Hmm.
It's not longer 100% African. And by this, I don't mean to disrespect anyone out there listening to this. It's facts. We know that it's not pure something pure that came from Africa and it stayed pure. It started
Hmm.
mixing.
Yeah,
Um,
I think one of the strong basis of why people feel that people of like my skin tone or your skin tone shouldn't practice palo is because they believe that palo came straight from Africa. Now we know most paleros know that yes, the African root is there, but if it wasn't for the marriage, the intermarriage of the native understanding, when it came to first learning the topography, right? Because the first thing you had was that you had a lot of cimarrones or maroons
mhm.
that escaped the plantations, right? Because the Bantus were fierce warriors. Yes, you might have had them slaved in a chain, but as soon as they got wind that they can get away, you know, they escaped. You know what I mean?
What is the definition for you for a cimarron or maroon? A lot of people
The,
misunderstand that too.
a cimarron and a maroon, they're the same. They're equivalent. You know, there's no difference. It's just the different in language, right? Between English and Spanish. The cimarron was an escaped slave that was working in a plantation and decided that he was done and he was going to run and he was going to take off into the woods, into the jungles. And, you know, when you say jungles, we can't really say jungles because there is no true jungle in the Caribbean islands, right? Unless you go straight into South America, but you got thickets, you got pockets of major forest, for untamed land that was never that was uncharted, you know, that the Tainos went through, that the Congos wound up finding those routes, you know. It took it took the it took the actual Spaniards, and this is recorded history. It took the actual Spaniards to make a road into those mountains about almost 70 years to actually break down roads and get into the mountains where they were trying to get these cimarrones,
Hmm.
where they were trying to get these Taino people. These Taino people had cut land, they had cut through areas. They had their bojillos, you know, they had their communities, you know, what we would call a yucajeque, right? A
Hmm.
yucajeque is a community of people, right? And in those yucajeques, the cimarrones went and they intermarried and they learned about the topography of the island. And of course, learning the topography, you learn the medicines, you learn the different cultures, you learn the different animals that you can eat, the different animals that you can eat, the different fruit that you could eat, all everything that, you know, everything that has to do with the land. It's like you take me or you take yourself right now and they throw us in the middle of somewhere we've never been. It's going to take us, if we don't have any roads, we have no cars, we have no understanding of anything, and we're just walking around pretty much without nothing, not a tool, not anything, to learn the topography and figure out where we're at. It's going to take us quite a bit of years to move around, you know. And so when we talk about that, a lot of people have this fairy tale understanding that all of a sudden the Africans went in and they got everything and it became this system. This
No.
system that we talk about, Palo, as a, you know, um, as a relative new system of practice, right? A lot of people don't understand that It was 300 years of existence of Palo Mayombe before you start getting in the influence of Lukumi. I'm not talking about Christianity, because Christianity and Kisi worship was already influenced in Angola. And a lot of those Africans came with that understanding into the New World. I'm talking about pretty much what we're looking at is 300 years of developing a system of practice, a system of culture, a system of understanding that didn't just grow overnight. Paulo didn't just come out of the blue, you know? And so I think people have this fairy tale understanding about, oh, it was just the Africans that took all this and created it. And it wasn't. It was a marriage of people, you know?
Well, it's the word Palo. We understand it's Castilian.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not.
yeah.
It's not an original African word.
No, no, no. But
So
but we
what would?
will we will we will say this, that and when we talk about bozal, or language that's being spoken, right? A
Mhm.
language that's being creolized, because we have to look at the language that we talk about being mixed within certain practices, right? A lot of the language came from the understanding of the Taino process plus the African roots, right? So we'll take a word like Inkisi, right?
Mhm.
Most of the practices in a Mayombe understanding was considered Maki Inkisi, or what we would say many Inkisi, right? Maki
Yes.
Inkisi
Lembe.
Malongo,
Lembe guy.
which means Malongo, which means earth, or what we talk about as nature, right? That that if you look at it from that angle, that was born and bred in Cuban society. It wasn't. That word malongo in Africa means something totally different than what it is in creolized understanding here
Mm.
in Cuba, right? Then later on, with Castilian Spanish and people adopting the language, they started giving it codex, right? What we call a coded language. Oh, mira, palomayombe, palomayombe,
Mm.
palomayombe. And people start thinking stick and mayombe, people of Yombe, right? Because
Yeah.
Mayombe is a forest, but the people of Yombe means
Yombe.
many of Yombe,
Mhm.
right? And
Yes.
that's where this adaptation comes in, you know? It comes with that adaptation. So when we look at the adaptations of language that we use, you know, hey Tata Eric, speak a little on the Nganga style in Mayombe opposed to Briumba or Kimbisa branches. I'll try to get to that later, because I'm wanting to stick more to the historical aspects, because there's not really much differences in practices and in branches, just more commonality when it comes to how people have techniques of building in gangas. When it comes to Briyumba, Kimbisa, Mayombe, those techniques came later on, right? But if we're just talking about straight Inkisi, straight what was born from just dirt, rocks, sticks, and animals, right? Let's just keep it that basic, right?
Mhm.
Not with the fondo canastas and everything else that came, because that became a technology, right?
That
We
became later.
Yeah, that came later.
And where people
When
don't understand that that's something that was born later, and
Yes,
not it doesn't come from Kunayanda.
no, 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 it doesn't. It doesn't.
Well,
It doesn't
Kunayanda is
because
Africa. For those,
Exactly. Yeah, the Kunambansa, Kunayanda. A lot of people believe also that Kunambansa and Kunayanda makes reference to Havana and to Matanza and Pinal del Rio and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But again, when we talk about those terminologies, you got to be in the culture to understand what they're talking about, right?
Yes.
So when we get to that point, that precipice, right? And we start building a community, it's like, okay, how do we start setting these rules, right? How do we start setting these understandings of practice that's going to mesh with the people of the land, right? And so this is the process that it starts eliminating itself because people start adapting and adopting customs, for one. And this is one major one that a lot of people don't understand, is that when we talk about the enfumbe or the enfumbi, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Mayombe, or in back in the days when we talk about Makinsisi Malongo or Malongo itself,
Mm-hmm.
nature itself, the understanding of having that human capacity within that within that receptacle is not a African concept. It's an African it's an African understanding of a bakulu of an ancestor, right? But the technology of how to build it came from the Taino concept and the Taino concept of what's called the hue, right? The hue, in essence, became the ancestors that were chieftains, that were people that were in the practice. They wound up taking their dead, their ancestral bones, and start building inside of a bohio, the bejiques and all the caciques. They used to be buried first for a year, and when they disinterred all their insides and their head and everything, they started putting those things inside of their homes. And when they put it in big guidos, right? In guidas, in big gourds, and those gourds had the ancestral bones of human beings that were being honored.
You're going deep, man.
I have to so that
Yeah,
people
we
can
have to.
because the people have to understand that the concept of what an Nkisi is in Africa is
It's
not the
different.
same concept of what an Nganga is in the
Mm-hmm.
Americas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so when we do that, when we go into that and you look at that, the Africans come and they see the Tainos and the people of those lands honoring their ancestors in that same place, in that same understanding. They go, okay, you know what? That's Ngisi worship. We gotta keep our we gotta keep our understanding, our culture alive. And how people keep culture alive, they assimilate each other, they assimilate one another. It's common in all practices and in all cultures. Eventually there's an assimilation of something to keep something alive. Doesn't mean that it's wrong, it just means that it works, you know. And that's why a lot of
Exactly.
people can't criticize when they see, I'm not going to say nuances, but when you see people doing certain things, you got to say, do they understand what they're doing, or they're doing it from a concept of trying to salvage something? You know what I mean? And that's the main concept of what Taino worship became, because everything that goes in an nganga, from courts, dirts, waters, animals, everything, everything is a Taino concept. Because if you were to take a grave, and it's pre-Columbian archaeologists pulled out a Taino burial site where they had all these human remains, and they took X-rays of it, and you would say that's an Nganga. You would say that's an Nganga.
They even
So
found skeletons of dogs.
yes,
That's
yes,
where
because
Ngandongwa comes from.
there were the keepers of the dead. And it's interesting because in Angola, right, or
Hmm.
modern day DRC, the old Nganga priests would put bells on the dogs in the towns, right? Because the dogs over there don't bark.
Hmm.
They're not domesticated to bark. They don't bark. They yelp. They whoop, 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 whoop. They don't bark. So what they would do is that put bells to get rid of the Enquita spirits, to get rid of the evil and dunduns and everything, and they would have them run through the town. So it was a different concept, same understanding, different concepts that were intermarriaged. And I think that's the thing that people need to understand. Right? This whole formula um, about Palo, right? And again, I don't want to take away the Africanism of Palo, because Palo is very entrenched in Africanism. It is. It is.
Yes,
But
we
it's
have an
also
understanding.
it's also entrenched in another understanding as well. Because again, when we look at Palo for what it is, right? When we talk about sticks in Africa, in any region in Africa, it is taboo for them to cut trees down unless they fall naturally and use them for medicine. So a lot of times you would see enkisis or enkondis with roots, leaves, dirt, but never sticks. Never sticks unless those sticks were already on the ground and they asked permission to pick up those sticks. See, in traditional medicine, from Native American understanding, we cut sticks, or the Tainos, they cut sticks because they would make canoes and they would make huts and they would
Hmm.
make houses and they would do medicines and they would take tree bark and all that stuff. And that is very rooted in Palo technology. That's what I'm going to say. I'm not
Okay.
going to say Palo religion and Palo technology.
Oh wait, I have a comment here from Azaria Israel. Says same thing the
Mhm.
Catholic Church does with their saints, and he's talking about the bones where they put them underneath the altars and stuff like that. And the
Yeah,
church,
yeah. And again, it's an assimilation of understanding, but the Tainos have been practicing this a millennia
of
already.
course,
The Tainos have been practicing that. There was no Catholic priest that went over there and told them, "Hey, you know what you can do? You can take that head and you can honor it." They already knew this through nature and natural occurrences that were happening in nature and in their culture. It was already embedded in the culture. You know.
yes. I think it's a lot of misunderstanding, and a lot of this come from people that, and I'm just gonna say it flat out loud,
Hmm.
that they read one book, then all of a sudden they're calling themselves an anthropologist and think that they know everything, put a lot of things out there, right? Can you elaborate more on the Tainos? Because that's really what I'm like. I gotta learn more about the Tainos, right? What
Yeah.
other things that? Go ahead.
You know, a lot of the creation stories, right? Or a lot of the creation stories that we look upon when we talk about Taino as a culture, right? A lot of people don't understand that the same universe that we talk about that is formulated in the earth comes from the same understanding that Taino culture brought, right?
Hmm.
They talked about they talked about many different demigods and semis that were involved in the practice, right? And one of the major players for Palo in Taino culture or in Taino creation story is Bayamanako, right? The fire god or the fire deity, right?
Hmm.
They talk about Yaya, which you hear that word, right? Yaya and Yayael,
Hmm.
brother, the father and the son, right? They were both Yayael and Yaya, right? They were part of this creation story where in the creation story, Yayael had a gourd of milk. Okay, mom, I love you. Sorry.
Hey, no porn in that video, man. No porn.
um, so Yayael formulates the creation story where he tells his son, don't go into that gourd and spill it over because you don't understand it holds the secrets to the world and in the
Hmm.
universe, and people weren't ready. Oreo, get off of there. Niño, ya, no jodas. Crazy dog, crazy kids, crazy dog. And so he gets to he the son, curious, goes up and knocks the gourd over. And when he does, he knocks the universe into existence. And so when he knocks the universe into existence, the what we understand as water, right? The oceans
Mm-hmm.
overtake the bohia. That all of a sudden it takes over where they live in their hut, and he drowns.
Mm.
And the universe, it expands, it explodes, it comes out. Yael comes back from a trip and realizes that the universe came into existence, but his son is dead. And so he grieves his son. He puts him on the earth and he grieves his son. And then a year later, he goes, you know what? I'm so grief stricken. I need to talk to my son. I need to have him close to me. So when he disinters his body from the earth, the only thing that he finds is his head, his entu, right?
Uh-huh.
He finds his rib cages. He finds the eight bones, right? The arms and
Mm.
the legs, and he goes, okay, I'm going to put this back in the gourd. He puts it back in the gourd. He puts the dirt that was interred from him. He puts quartz crystals. He puts all this stuff and he hangs them back up. And when he hangs them back up, he does an incantation and his son starts speaking to him again. What is what is that? What is that considered? An enga?
Así, en bomba.
Yeah.
Sin
And
bomba
so
no tiene
when
pie, muchacho, ¿cómo camina? Anyway.
exactly, exactly. Si Briumba no tiene pie, como camina, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then now he animates his son again and he has this relationship. And so in that understanding of that story brings about the journey of the Nganga. Now there's another Taino story of Bayamanako, the god of fire. They call him Father Fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where there was two twins, right? And one of the twins becomes a Behike, because they say that anyone in Taino culture that's born with some type of disability, a stub leg, a moving eye, health conditions, they get pustules in their bodies, things like that, that they can see beyond, right? That they're animators of spirituality. So Bayamanako finds out that the twins, knock over this gourd and
Mm-hmm.
create the universe, and in anger he takes cojoba, which is none other than tobacco, and
Mm-hmm.
he spits on on the Behike's back, right? He spits on the Behike's back, and that forms none other than the turtle, right? So the turtle comes out and represents fire and lightning. And that turtle reproduces and keeps reproducing and reproducing. And so that understanding of fire and lightning from a Taino perspective gives the tratado of what we consider now in Sasi.
Oh, wait. And the turtle, right?
Exactly. And the turtle and the understanding of why we drink his blood and why later on in Lukumi culture they adopted the turtle to feed to Chango because it was there. Because in Africa they don't feed turtle to Chango. Matter of fact, the guy that eats turtle in Africa is Ogun. But that's a whole nother concept, right? We're not going to get into that. We're talking about Palo in its efficacy, right? So we start talking about Palo and we start working this religion and we start using the plants and the 21 herbs and all this stuff. And of course, then after many, many years, you start getting the influence of the Lukumi that come in. And of course, things become assimilated. Now, people are going to say, oh, that's heresy. No, that the Lukumi. No, that happened the way it happened.
Intermarriages.
Yeah. There's people, si uno no tiene de Congo, tiene de Carabalí, right? That's what they always say. El que no tiene de Congo, tiene de Carabalí.
If you don't have
And so,
Congo, you have Caravali.
Exactly. And so these marriages and these intermeshing of different branches of Africans come and create what we now understand as contemporary Palo, right?
Exactly.
It's and contemporary Palo, of course, now it has all these nuances, right? Because now you don't have the natural aspect. Now you've added on what we call the pantheonic aspect of Orisha worship, right? Which in Sasi, Siete Rayos, Saravanda. Now they're mixing it with Ogun and Chango, and you'll see Ngangas with those types of implements that were never before, right?
It gets
But
watered down, basically.
yeah, and I don't say watered down. I just think that they added it as a technology. Can we hear the understanding of Lonkankasi and the idea of the devil and Palo? Look, I'm not. The funny thing about Lonkankasi is that it has its own linear understanding in Africa, and all it represents is a fire god. Again, the whole Lonkankasi thing, good and evil. Palo is transparent. Palo is either black or white. You're either cause and effect, because Palo has no karma. Palo is either you do or you don't, and you deal with the consequences afterwards.
Yeah,
So
and
there
plus,
is, go
there's
ahead, I'm listening. Sorry.
there's different deities, Lungambe, Lukankasi, Kalimpemba,
Yeah.
Lumuziere, um, different things. But um, you mentioned in the beginning something about Native Americans. How do the Native Americans play a role in this too? Because from my
Because
understanding, were
we
there
look at
Native
we look
Americans
at the
in
we look
Cuba?
at the Aboriginal understandings, right? The Aboriginal understandings, because when we talk about Native American, we talk about Native American plants, right? We talk about their understanding of natural plants and things of that nature. A lot of the Native American understanding is pretty much based almost in its entirety as a Palo concept too. I'm not saying that Native Americans have Ngangas or things like that, but there was a lot of intermarriages with Tainos. Didn't only come from Venezuela and South America. They went into the Virgin Islands. They were, pretty much transparent in Honduras. They were also in, parts of Florida where you get the Seminole as well. They even made it almost as close to Tennessee. Tennessee is an actual Taino word,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But again, intermarriages, there wasn't only the influence of Taino culture, because if you look at the Yucatan, if you look at Mayan culture, there were Mayans in Puerto Rico, there were Mayans in Cuba, they just, that it didn't become so intertwined because there were intermarriages,
Which
right?
people don't believe that there were actually Mayans in Cuban. That Cubans have Mayan blood, Mexican blood as well. There's a writing about a ship because some of the slaves they took Mayans to work on those sugar canes.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, listen, like I say, I'm not disrespecting anything, but I think in the Napalo community, they don't give enough credit to the Tainos. It's always this and that. They don't give credits to the Mayans. They don't give credits to a lot of different cultures that participate and are part of that influence.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always hear this word that it gets me a little bit rowdy, even though I'm not Cuban, right? And
Uh-huh.
it's like Cubans are the gatekeepers or try to gatekeep this tradition,
Hmm.
but in reality, they're the ones that kept it alive for many years. And I'm like I said, I'm not trying to disrespect anyone, but in a way, it is what it is. They have every right because they kept that tradition alive, their ancestry, I believe the Apollo belongs to everyone.
Hmm.
You know.
You know, look, I'm gonna say this because my all my teachers have been Cuban, right? All my teachers have been Cuban. My, my padrino que me rayó, he
Mhm.
was Cuban. You know, he was very dark skinned, Taino. They called him El Indio Mocanda. He looked Indian, right? The guy was a science in Palo. You know, I worked with Muerto Vivo. Muerto Vivo was midnight, midnight. And I love that old man. I learned so much from him. And yeah, he had his reputation. But good, bad, or indifferent, people have to understand this is a this is a practice where it came from slavery, and it came from pacts, that as soon as you broke those pacts, you were no longer part. And I'm not talking about pacts like, oh, um, this guy took my wife or things like that. Those are menial things. I'm
But
talking about,
when you say slavery, do you mean just Africans or slavery
no,
as
I'm talking about everybody.
mm,
Everybody that got a whoop in a back, and that was
Taínos,
there.
Mayans, and
Everybody that was property. If you were in a list and you were property, guess what? You were slave. I don't care if you had indentured servitude or nothing like that. You were a slave, right? So when we look at this concept, right, and then people say, "Oh, the Cubans are gatekeeping." You know what? If if we're in a culture where we're supposed to respect certain things and certain anonymity, right? Be a good husband, be a good father, be a good teacher, be a good person. Try to help your brethren. Do the things, you know. Do the things that you need to do to uplift your family and things like that. And then you get these people that are saying, "Oh, you're gatekeeping because this is an African religion." You're you're sorely misplaced. There's a definite disconnect, because Palo became of the people. Yes, it was very family oriented, right? But in that family, there weren't only Africans. There was people of mestizo color, and I'm gonna say it like that because so that people understand. Lighter skinned people, darker skinned people, and all these mixes of different peoples that created this understanding of power. My godfather used to always tell me, he goes, "Oh, you go to Guanabacoa in Havana back in the days." He goes, "My godfather was white with blonde hair and blue eyes, and I was
Mandele.
dark skinned." You know, and there were brujos, and it had nothing to do with color or skin or ethnicity or none of that. It was that the dude knew. If you knew brujeria, you knew brujeria.
So your godfather told you that his godfathers were Mundele, right? White, blue
Exactly.
eyes,
Yeah.
meaning that they had European blood.
Just that. Yeah.
So, and I know we touched this subject again, but there's a lot of people out there that they say that if you're not dark skinned or have African blood, you have no rights to practice this tradition.
Hmm.
But if your godfather, and I'm not trying to put you in the spot here, don't
Uh-huh.
misunderstand, right?
Yeah.
But it's a good point that something that you
Yeah.
good that you touch, and I want to take advantage of that, right?
I gotta get him
Um,
food. Can you get him food?
that
Can
means
you
that
get
those
him-
Cubans,
No. What?
from where your godfather got
Yeah.
accepted, had that European blood,
Uh-huh.
Spanish blood, French blood, or whatever it was.
Uh-huh.
And they, when we do the pacto menga con menga, right? Meaning we mixing
Uh-huh.
the blood together and we become as
Yeah.
one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that means that your godfather accepted that blood of that European family as well.
Let me tell you, my godfather's family were all Haitian.
Hmm.
Okay. My godfather, Ramon Herrera Cola,
Hmm.
from Guanabacoa. All right. El Muerto Vivo, they used to call him. El
Yes.
Muerto Vivo. Because there was a story in Regla that his grandfather and his father rose him from the dead. And yes, they were African, right? But his godparent was white as snow.
That's what I'm talking about. His
Yeah.
godparents. So when you
And
mix the
so
mangas,
and so when we talk about that, all these people were intermingled in that situation, right? They were all in that. There was no Were there color barriers? Of course there's color barriers. There's color barriers in
mhm.
every unfortunate, every pseudo Latino family nonsense that we go, oh, this one is too light, this one is too dark, this whatever, right? But at the end of the day, when we talk about practicality, just pour that one in. There's a bag right there by the muerto room. Yeah. Okay. Um, and the practicality of what it is that we practice, right? Doesn't understand skin color. You know who got really bashed for this, which
Andres,
is funny. Petit, Andres Petit.
Andres,
You know,
Andres de Dolores Petit.
yeah, he got bashed for it, but then everybody adopted it, right?
Of
But
course.
they have been adopting it for a minute. You don't think people were having lighter skinned kids and practitioners and things like that? It was bound to happen. It was an evolution of practicality. But it had nothing to do with color or race or any of that. It had to do with the connection to the spirituality of it all.
Yeah, but even with the spirits, right? Or
Yeah.
the bones that they use, there's an understanding. A lot of those bones were chinos,
A lot of them were Fulani, yeah. A lot
right?
of them were Fulani. Yeah.
And
A
that's
lot
who
of
they
them were
work with,
Fulani.
Chinese.
You know, in the Mambi Wars, we talk about that a lot of my godfather used to say, la cabeza de un bafiote no trabaja,
Can
right?
you explain Bafiote to them so they understand?
I'll say it in a nice way, right? They would say that the head of a person of color, darker skinned, did not work. So what they would do is that you know, they would put someone who was of a lighter skin tone to work, right? Whether it be Chinese, whether it be the Europeans, slave master, because that brought the ideology of the concept of enslaving an Nganga versus the old concept was venerating ancestors.
Mayombe.
That's the
Mayombe.
difference between what Mayombe is and what Briyumba became and what Kimbisa became later.
Ah, wait.
You know, and again, it's proven fact, right?
And a lot of
That
people don't believe me when I say that Mayombe used to venerate ancestors.
and
It
they still
wasn't
do.
all about
And
the Enfumbe.
yeah, yeah, it wasn't.
Yumba is all about the Enfumbe,
Yeah,
and las hierbas.
yeah. Y
And the ngangas
esclavizar.
on the floor.
You have to esclavizar. You have to make that enganga a slave. And that is the issue. That is the issue.
So basically, we have an understanding that Siete Rayos and Sasi is Briyumba, right? I mean, Mayombe, right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
are you saying that in the beginning, Siete Rayos or Sasi had no huesadura, bones?
No,
It
no.
was up in the air and it was all about the air. But
It
anyways,
was
I'm not
all
going to get
about
too
it
deep.
was all about the understanding of lightning and its force and its elemental force, right?
Oh, wait.
So anything that encompassed lightning, if a stick got hit by lightning, guess what? That was going in there. If there was a rock that we knew that fulgurite hits the ground and you pull it out and it looks like a shiny piece of stone that wasn't a piedra de rayo now that you get in the botanicas that are molded and sculpted, right? That would go into an enganga. So these elemental forces that we use, hurricane, a tidal tornado, that a dirt devil that formulates, they would capture that dirt and take that and use it to formulate that understanding of what's considered in Sasi, right? And then the technology of everything else became part of that corpus, part of that understanding. Later on, as you see Ngangas formulating in different plantations, because this whole pantheonic understanding didn't come till after the 1800s. This whole thing of everybody having a siete rayos in their home, a sarabanda in their home, didn't come about till about the 1800s, because every person that had an nganga, it was for a central, it was for a plantation. And that plantation had one nganga, one communal nganga, like they used to have it in Africa, like they had semis in Taino understanding, that was for the communal people to go and do their grievances, do their trabajos, and the nganga, the priest was the one priest would work there and do what they needed to do.
Los
Later on, of
ingenios.
course, it became more convenient to have portable, right? And now that's why nowadays you have 50 million ganguleros, and 50 million insasis, right? So it becomes different. In Mayombe, I think we try to not name them as in Sasi Siete Rayos, Saravanda, this, that, and a third, because we actually give them a Congo counterpart.
Do you guys hear that? I keep saying that there's not such thing as those names, but people like Butako used to say.
Yeah, yeah. There are no, because when we talk about building some technology that's going to work for us, right? It has to connect to our spirituality. And that's when we talk about la sombra, or the shadow of a person, the rastro of the person, the actual footprint, right? Your body print, your imprint that gets imprinted into an inganga. That's what it is. Megaton for Bumblebee. Somebody's, I think we got a troll. Somebody's talking about Megatron and Bumblebee.
Oh, you know what? I could delete them, but I leave them there because the more comments they put, and it doesn't matter if it's about. No, don't erase them, babe. Because the more they comment, the
That
more
was
this
pretty
gets
hilarious.
spread.
I was trying to think about Megatron and Bumblebee. you know,
Enganga Megatron.
Hell yeah, I'm gonna make a Megatron and have a big
Chola
gun on
Bumblebee.
him. But seriously, I think, like, from those concepts, right? From what we talk about, conceptual understanding of what Palo is. Palo is very similar to creating a universe within your own universe, right?
Mhm. That you are
When we
God.
talk about when we talk about how we create an understanding to work with us, it's because we're talking about what is following us behind us, right? That spirituality that walks with us. It has nothing to do with an actual Nkisi. Yes, we build that functionality to follow us, but that spirituality that walks with us is also part of that concept, you
Are you
know?
also talking about the Enkanguame
Yeah, you
and
know?
the Salamuyo?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that people don't understand, that there are three understandings of how the corporal spirit breaks down, right? Three. There's two of the higher self, one goes up, one stays down, and the other one stays behind with the body, right? And when we talk about that, those understandings, those rastros, the one that Mayombe pulls has nothing to do with the one that's on the earth, but that's one is in the sky that we're calling down, which is none other than a Bakulu.
Si arriba truena, abajo ponde.
Ponde. And a lot of people don't understand those concepts.
Mhm.
They think, oh, I'll do the Enfumbe, and the Enfumbe moves things and everything is great. But you have to feed that thing, because that thing becomes parasitic. It has nothing to do with spirituality. See, Palo has a spirituality that's very strong and coherent if you know how to tap into it. You know, we say nosotros somos el hijo del Empemba. We are children of the light. And so when we talk about that, it's spirituality and understanding that that part of what we call endosi, the state of dreaming, is where
Mm-hmm.
we meet our ancestors,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where we meet our ancestors and they formulate that spirituality to us so that we can better ourselves. That's why a lot of people are kind of gravitating to Palo because they want to connect to their spirituality. There was a question somebody said, what happens if you were never brought into the religion or never practice it as such? Well, a lot of us didn't come practicing the religion.
Away.
I didn't come with a guide in my pocket, you know,
Ancestors. Bakulu. It means ancestors.
you know,
The
and
star
and,
is
and
embutete. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. And the meaning of the star, yeah, Bakulu is part of the star system. We talk about those stars, the Bakulu being the ancestral forces that light upon us, and so the understanding of that is that when we connect to our higher self, right? And when you say higher self, it sounds almost like space age,
Oh,
right? But but that's what the Congos did. They just didn't formulate it like that,
the
right?
creator within you.
Exactly.
Because
Because
you
we
that
are
in
connected to that creative force. We are connected to that creative
and
force.
the
And once
Nganga
we
is
learn
the
how to
world or the universe that you rule.
within the universe,
Yeah.
because it's a
But
universe
it's
within a
deeper than that.
universe.
We just talking a little bit.
Yeah, on the surface,
Yeah.
and the beauty of that is that when you get to this point in your life that you connect to that, the world makes sense. The way people think and operate makes sense. So you know how to circumvent within your own life. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so that's he's saying, yes, a part, not the whole, but you need the understanding of why we say we come from the stars. Well, yeah, we come from the stars because 75% of our body is made out of star matter. And when we disintegrate, when we break down into back into that, ashes to ashes, dust to dust concept, we become part of that matter. We become everything that is within the world, within the universe. We just
So
return back to where we came from.
so the concept of Kriyumba, because we let's talk. I know we got off the subject. We could go back to the subject if you
No,
want.
it's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
The concept of Kriyumba, when a lot of people say originally Sarabanda did not have human Kriyumba, it was in Gando and Wow,
Okay.
meaning it was the head of a dog. What is your opinion on that?
I say that the actual understanding of what they would consider the energy of what they call Yokumalongo or Saravanda
Hmm.
would come from the understanding of El Tratado de Macondo
Hmm.
and the root of the Macondo that gave birth to Saravanda. The Wow didn't give birth to Saravanda.
Hmm.
What gave birth to Saravanda was the Macondo. The Macondo is the actual planting, right? The plantain has a root, and there's a root within there that animates that energy. Again, we're not going to get too deep into
Yeah.
what it is, but people that have that understanding will understand why that energy formulates, and it has nothing to do with a criumba or la cabeza de un wow or none of that. It just seemed pertinent that a lot of people um, thought that those concepts were part of that understanding because it became contemporary, right? You know? Brachyphiliac. I'm a human too. I get it.
I just
You
let the
know?
comments go, man. I mean, look, it
No, no,
brings
I'm
more
just
people.
looking. I'm just looking. I'm just looking. And the guy said, "Can we explain death? There is no such thing as death in Palo. The transference of the human body and the soul becomes one with the elements of the universe, and so Congo nunca muere. The Congo never died. We
So
don't
that
die."
means the concept of Nkimba,
Hmm.
or like other people got it wrong and they say baquiñar, right? With the
Uh-huh. Yeah. Hmm.
right, or scratching,
Yeah.
rayamiento.
Yeah.
So when we go through the barrier ceremony, well, I don't know if you guys do that.
Mm-hmm.
To die, to be born in the world of the living.
Hmm. I mean, that every concept of what Enkimba
Mhm.
is that concept. Some people may use certain elements. Some people may use um the actual, the actual white sheet, right? What we consider the white sheet to cover the dead, right? Um, some people, um, some people use pañuelo luto, the black sheet, right? Some people get buried, you know, and some people just do the ceremony of what needs to be done in Enfina, right?
Yes.
So so every concept and every house determines how that is represented, right? But the reality is to bring the dead back to life into the living. So the concept of the living dead is that we are living in a society, or we're living in this world already dead from a physical understanding. We're getting reborn into a spiritual concept. So
Give me
we're
1 second,
shedding all that,
guys. Is it frozen? Let me know if it's frozen. Somebody said it froze. So if there's,
How does that coincide? Well, they have to do my ceremony of they have to do my yampembe first before they do my itutu, because I'm a palero first before I'm a santero. So two concepts, different understandings, but the same process, because you don't know what in Orisha happens, right? And what we considered a bakulu and what we considered egungun, right? If you look at it from that concept, egungun and bakulu are similar and the same,
okay.
you
Can
know?
y'all go back to all my questions, man?
What
Zaria,
question? What
he's been
question?
asking a whole bunch of questions. Zaria's going crazy here.
Yeah, what is asking? What is this? Back, what all questions? I don't know what he's talking about. I don't speak English.
But you need to understanding of why we say we come from the stars. Well, the thing, Azaria, is we're talking over the top. We can't discuss a lot of things here, and the
Yeah.
time is, it's a little bit of time that we have to talk about these things, right? And we sort of like got off the subject that Eric wanted to touch on. I don't know if you want to go back to that or continue. The floor is yours, Eric.
No, I mean, what we were talking about, what the Tainos, the conceptual ideology of Taino,
Hmm.
coming to one's mental health, being that they are in spiritual realm yet they don't know color. Can Palo heal one's mental health issues? We'll get to that concept, Ashley, in a minute, but I'm going to go back to what I was talking about when it comes to the Taino concept. Um, I think and I believe that what happens is that once you get an intermeshing of practices when it comes to the Taino concept, um, it kind of gets melded, right? Because then people start going into books and saying, "Oh, the extinction of the Tainos," they have no language, they have no culture, they lost everything. But then you look at Palo and you go into the language and it's all Taino.
Of
You go
course.
into the you go into the herbs, it's all Taino. You go into the language, Baracute, Boillo, just the Cuban iconography of what we talk about when you talk about language, it's all there. So the Tainos never died or anything like that. It just, again, when you talk about assimilation, things become assimilated. You know what I mean?
There's a Dazaria said, is Palo a standalone tradition?
Of course it is. Of
Well,
course it is.
who taught them about the herbs? Because I don't think they came here with the knowledge of the herbs,
No,
the knowledge of
no,
the
no, no, no,
fauna.
no.
And like I said, I'm not disrespecting anybody, but we have to give credit where credit is deserved. Because the Taínos are not spoken about this at all. They're never given credit.
Yeah, no, and that's the problem. So when we talk about that, right? We talk about, is it a standalone tradition? Look at the conceptual ideology of Palo and where it influenced a lot of Orisha practices that they assimilated Oduns to try to control the populace to not get cut. Oh, in Ogundameji, you shouldn't be a palero. I heard some guy say that, some babalao say that. I'm not going to mention his name or anything like that because it's not about disrespecting him. It's what he was taught, right? Is what he was taught, but it's wrong information. All those old dunes that they talk about, oh, and this Sarabanda's born and that Siete Rayos is born. There's bullshit. It it doesn't go into the concept of Orisha because if you go to Orisha and you take its traditional understanding from where Orisha was born and you bring it to the new world and now you recopulate stories of the time, of course people are gonna say, yeah, in this Odun, Siete Rayos was getting chased by Mayomberos and he had to do an afoche and all this stuff. It's it's kind of like fairy tales to tell children. You know what I mean? But actual Odu, Orisha, it's it doesn't exist. So no Orisha should be telling anybody that you need to receive Nganga to better your life. Why am I doing Orisha? If I'm already a Gangulero, I don't need to hear that.
So you're saying that if you're already a Angulero, there's no need for you to do Ocha.
If that's your road, right? I'll tell you from my perspective. My perspective was that I went looking for Ocha, and Ocha said you have to complement with other spiritualities in your life. And I went to Palo, so I became a Palero first, and then I reverted back into Ocha because I made a promise with Yemaya. But I've never gone destitute. I've never gone hungry. I've never been without as a palero. I still have all my teeth. You know, like people have this misconception that Palo is evil and that you're gonna die from like 50 million and one things. You know what you get hurt from? Doing the wrong things to people. That's when you hurt yourself. You know what I mean? That's
It's
when you
more
hurt
it's more
yourself.
medicine and to help others.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have the knowledge on how to hurt. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah. 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 And a lot of people sell themselves for that.
mhm.
Because most of the time, in my very early career as a palero, I would get a lot of santeros knocking on the door. Hey, I got problems with fulano de tal. Can you do a brujeria to hurt them? But they had ocha crown. But they coming to me to do some damage. Okay, I'm getting paid. At the time, I didn't think about it. Right? I was like, se joda, damn santeros anyway. But the reality is the concept of that is that you have to be justified in doing things to people. Paulo
So
just
what was
doesn't
that
work
again?
like
What
that.
was that again that you say you have to
You
be
have to
what?
be justified. You have to be justified. So those people that were coming to me had legitimate issues with these people that were trying to dog him out. So when the Nganga said, yeah, it wasn't because he was being Maleficent, he was triggering justice for that person. He was helping that person out because that person was in the right. But had I been in the wrong and still sent the Ganga might have did something, but guess who was going to get the repercussion?
You.
Me. Because I'm the one putting forth, you know, I'm the one putting forth that energy. And so as you grow in this concept of what medicine is, right?
I'll be right back. Keep
Paulo,
talking.
Paulo is born from the understanding of what's considered an ngoma. An ngoma in Africa is the healing drum, right? And a lot of concepts of Paulo come from a healing aspect, the herbs that we use, the prayers and incantations that we do, you know, everything that is part of that corpus or that understanding of what we call Palo is based on healing. It's not based on hurting. Can we hurt people? Yeah, left and right, and at the right price, a lot of people, can do stuff. But that, again, what can be considered healing, right? If a person is hurting me and trying to cause sickness, and now all of a sudden I do something to reverse that sickness and that person gets sick, is that truly evil or is that cause and effect? And this is
Hmm.
where we talk about Paulo working in its working of understanding of what is repartiendo la diferencia, separating what's right and what is wrong, right? And we talk about that even in the concept of what Simbi is recorded as recorded energy, the God principle. When we talk about Simbi, um, that's one of the energies that separates right from wrong in Palo culture. And you never hear Paleros saying, "Oh, I work with Simbi." I get a lot of my God kids to work with Simbi in Palo because it's a spirit that has nothing to do with the Nganga. And that's the understanding of what paleros need to do. We need to circumvent our energy to work better for our community and help people. That's all we are. That we're badasses. It was funny. I have a friend. I have a godson named David. He lives in Texas, and he said, "Hey, Padrino, you got a label." And I was like, "Label? What are you talking about?" He goes, "Yeah, yeah. A lot of dudes in Atlanta know you as the Babalao killer." And I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "Dude, that was from years ago. I had a beef. I had a beef with a couple of Babalaos back in the day, and they wanted to probar fuerza, and I lit them up. I lit them up. And so then I got the concept of Babalao killer because of that. But I said, I don't deem that as anything because anybody could get it. I can get it. If I'm doing something wrong and a young guy who's a palero is in the right, he likes a candle to his nganga, and me with all my 23 years and stuff, he can finish me off because I'm in the wrong.
And that's why people don't understand, right? And I tell them, listen, because everybody knows we have enemies, right? In every tradition, we have enemies. Every practitioner has enemies. Every practitioner has enemies. Nowadays, you go to YouTube and they're fighting, they're beefing, they're arguing with each other. And they say, well, why don't you just guys do what you have to do because we're waiting to be have justice, justify. And they do this poke, 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 poke.
No.
We're waiting to see them throw first and then I could justify it.
Yeah,
Because if
yeah,
I
yeah.
throw first, I mean, there's other things that we could do, but if I throw first, I give them what? Justice, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now I
You give
provoke
them,
them.
yeah. When you poke a bear, you poke a tiger, eventually it turns around and it's gonna snatch you.
Hmm.
You know? You can poke it, um, and eventually, like there's proverbs that says, the fly on the tiger's nose doesn't scare the tiger, it just becomes annoying,
Yeah.
right? So he swooshes it. He swooshes it away so it gets away from him, right? He keeps landing, he swishes it away. He keeps landing, he just swishes it away. Eventually, he's going to catch it, he's going to kill it, and it's going to be done.
It's like you, right? Or me. I'm here, and you have those little mosquitoes, and we go like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And then it gets to a point that we get pissed off, and we just squash the
yeah,
hell out of it.
yeah. And again, and and it's not to give fame to anyone or anything like that, but I think that these concepts of talking bad about people or defaming someone, it was funny, back in the flame war days, but
Hmm.
nowadays, as a person with a business like yourself, me, that I work in the community, um and people know me and things like that. Do I need that type of nonsense going on in my life, right?
No,
To make myself look better, like, oh, he's the baddest palero, look, he's always in some flame or some. It doesn't make you better. It makes you look ignorant, right? And then at 50 years old, you're an old man arguing with a screen. You know, you're you're arguing with a screen. Yeah, yeah, the keyboard warriors, and and it's unfortunate because those are the same people that go on these things about taking different pieces, right? Different pieces of technology and putting it into a Palo concept, right? Um, and it was never like that. I'll talk about the resurgence of the slave trade, right? When we talk about when the Bantus came down into Cuba, they first had to go through from Africa. They had to go through Brazil, and from Brazil, there were cargo boats that went into Haiti,
hmm
and from Haiti, they trudged over and took another cargo boat and went into Cuba. The first Africans that landed in Cuba was in 1509, 1510. This is recorded history. I didn't make this up. I didn't take this number out of my head. I studied, I looked at the books, I looked at the archaeological proof, all that stuff. They went into there, right? Of course, this influx of Africans that they bring their influences from different areas, and now they've kind of like settled in they've kind of settled in the island of Cuba, right? And now it branches out into the Taino culture because people forget Haitians have Tainos too. Dominicans, Dominicans and Haitians, they're very Taino oriented, right?
hmm
And who's not to say that within those slave ships, there weren't records of those Tainos that came over. You see? So we're looking at things. We're looking at things that people are not taking into account, right? And then you get into this whole thing about the differences or the cousins of Paulo, right? Like for instance, um, uh, Obia. Let's get into Obia, right? Obia, or what we call kumina, right? From the Jamaican concept of what that understanding of Nkisi worship, right? They call it Nyabingi. That's the word that they call it in when you talk about Jamaican culture and Nyabingi and the Nkisis and things like that, right? Now, that understanding has nothing to do with Palo because they're two different concepts. The Kumina and the Opia was born from another understanding that gave root in Jamaica. It never gave root in Cuba. Maybe later on in the 18 and 1900s when Jamaicans started coming and influxing a little bit into Cuba because there was opportunity for work and opportunity for different living structures. Matter of fact, the first recorded people from Jamaica came like maybe early 1910s or 1920s into Cuba. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't slaves or anything like that, but We got to look at things for what they are, right? There's a lot of influences, and then there's a lot of discrepancy that people want to add on because they think they know and they don't. They don't. They just assimilate because they go, oh, well, this was there and that was there. I have a godson who's an Obia priest, and there's certain things that you have to do in Obia that we don't do in Palo,
Mm,
that brings them to the brink of death. To the brink of death. In Obia, there's things that's done to bring you to the brink of death because you have to go into the realm of the ancestor and meet with one spirit in
mm,
Obia. And we're not talking about the technology of Nkisi. We're talking about something totally different. So when people want to manifest things and talk about things, they don't really have a basis. They like to hear themselves. It's like a guy that is a propagandist. I like to give a lot of propaganda because I think I know a lot, but I really don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, yeah, exactly. There is a whole community of Jamaicans in Cuba, and I know
but
that.
I mean, there's another island, Curacao, Aruba,
Yeah,
and look at Honduras, for example,
yeah,
Bantu
uh
and
huh,
Congo, and they have Bouye, the
yeah,
tradition Bouye that I
yeah,
talked about,
yeah,
that is almost like Kumina.
yeah. Look at Honduras and the understanding of Garifuna,
Exactly.
and the Garifuna are African and Taino
Mm-hmm.
because they also do, you know, um, they also do the whole understanding of the Ensandis when they divine, and it's
Exactly.
clans,
Exactly.
and that comes from the concept of Taino worship. You know what I mean?
But the credit is not given it to the Taino, it's just African and Cuban.
Of course, because what happens is that somewhere along the line, eh, um, the the Aboriginal concept got erased because erasure happens when they put you on paper, but it doesn't really happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like in Puerto Rico, they said that the Tainos were extinct and that there were only 60 people that came for for the census during a time like in the 1500s. No, there was only 60 idiots that went to that community because everybody was out in the outskirts, said to hell with these people. Just like in Cuba, there's major communities that even the government doesn't allow for people to go that are Indian, that are not Indian, Aboriginal, native, Taino cultural people.
And they're still there. I see their ceremonies. They put in my
Yeah,
YouTube, and I was like, wow, it's different.
yeah.
Just like
And
a
they're
lot of
still
people don't understand that, for
there.
example, from where our lineage comes, Santiago
Yeah.
de Cuba,
Yeah.
there's a lot of Haitian influence in our
Yeah.
practice.
Exactly, exactly. And again, the Haitian, and I told you with my godfather, right? My godfather was his
Muerto
all his
Vivo.
whole family, yeah, Muerto Vivo. They were all Haitian. A matter of fact, they're still around. They're still around. The Colas, they came from Haiti. They went into Guanabacoa and they brought their practices with them. You know,
Comina es Congo.
yeah, Comina is Congo.
Mhm.
No one is denying that. No one ever denies that. Malego Sala. But it's Congo, but it's not Palo, right? Because Kumina is its own tradition in its own right, and then Palo is its own tradition in its own right, right? They may be cousins, they have, influences, but they're separate because of traditional understandings. That they may have similarities in different things, yeah, but they're different. And to
Um,
say that one influenced the other or the other influenced the other is kind of like a disrespect to the culture, to the cultures that are there.
I'm sorry, I'm getting some message on Messenger here.
Oh yeah,
I
some
don't think
attack. Somebody's
it was the
talking.
question I asked you, right? They're asking me, ask this question, right? But I don't know
Uh-huh.
if it's proper to ask it here. You know, the
What is
question
it?
I asked you about Sarabanda being from Lucky Charms. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh. No, 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 no. Saravanda. The understanding of Saravanda comes from Mayombe. It's a Mayombe concept that later on was influenced by by Yumba understanding, right? Yumba meaning head of state and all that good stuff. But it's not born from any European concept.
you broke up a little bit
That
there.
that it's not born from any European concept.
Okay.
The only thing that was adopted was the word saravanda, which at one time was a dance, was a popular dance.
Okay. Let me ask Congo Real here something. You saying, and I'm not going against you, right? This is just this thing is not going against anybody. You say you have to be buried in Campo and Finda and Obia. Okay, but what is the word for Campo and Finda and Obia? Because you cannot say Campo and Finda, because I'm pretty sure they didn't use Campo and Finda, because Campo and Finda is Spanish and another language. What is
Yeah, and again, like
and I'm
I'm
not
not
disrespecting
denying.
you, Congo.
Yeah, and I'm not denying the concept, right? The concept of Kumina has its own dance and its own folklore and everything. But there is a point that in Obia, and I know because my godson is an Obia priest, where they take you to the point of death and you have to go meet a spirit. I'm not going to say what spirit it is. I'm not going to say his name because that's not my forte and that's not for me to say because those are trade secrets of Obia. We don't do that in Palo. We don't have to go meet someone at the crossroads. We don't have to meet someone in the technology of Palo in Mayombe is very different. Very different.
And like I said, I don't. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody.
Mhm.
Don't miss me. Understand me, Congo Real. But there's a lot of people that use some words, and I think that a lot of people get confused right there with those. It's like me saying, right? Um, I'm a Mitzi Katikwa priest, Santa Muerte, and then I said, um, and I say this. Well, in Missicatecua, I have to bury people in Campo Finda. Somebody's gonna pick that up and say, "Oh, the cemetery means Campo Finda in that tradition."
Yeah.
And that's what I said. How do we say that? How do you say that in the original language of that practice?
Yeah. No, and again, like I said, they have their practicalities. But again, in Palo, not every gangulero and not every munanso buries their people in the cemetery. You know, not every munanso goes to Campo Enfinda, Campo Lemba, and puts someone there and says, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to put this person there, and we're going to do the ceremony of enterral and all this stuff." And a lot of people don't do that. You know, and I think but again, Obia, it's his own practice, and rightly so. You know, rightly so. I'm just talking about the Lucky Charm situation. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's no kilts on Saravanda. We don't put bagpipes on Saravanda. It's just not. That's just not the. It's just not that type of Lucky Charm day.
Yeah. No, because I
And
mean
I'll leave it
it's
at that, man.
confusing. It's confusing, and I see this person.
I kiss dogs too. I love my dog.
I see this person sending me this, saying, Saravanda comes from this other land. The concept comes from this other land. He wears kilts and stuff. I'm like, I'm not gonna deny it because I don't know. I don't know the history, right? I don't know. From what I was told, that was different. Hey, malekum bakwenden Sara tata matamba. Okay, so they say cemetery, dopey. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. You see, that's what I'm saying. I think that terminology, and we're talking about a certain practice, the right terminology, the right words should be done. And like I said, in no way, bro, I'm trying to disrespect you or calling you out. But um, I don't want people here in the live to say, "Oh, they say Campo and Finda and Obia too," because that's not the point we're trying to say. And I myself am not denying that Jamaicans had nothing to do with Palo, right? I don't know that history, and that's why I have Eric Colon here.
Yeah, and I'm
That
not saying that they're not Jamaican paleros. I'm not saying that. See, what I am saying though, what I am saying that if a person at some point did a tratado with Obia and Mayombe, then it's no longer Obia nor Palo. It's something new.
oh wait,
It's something new. And if a person practices like that, they have to call it for what it is. They can't say, oh, they can't adopt that. Oh, mira, esto es Palo Mayombe, or this is Palo Monte, or this is Palo Quimbisa, or this is part of Briyumba, or this is part of Malongo. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You know, I,
it's like
it, just like I can't turn around and say, oh, I went and I took out an Nganga, and I made a duppy and I brought him out. Then what am I doing? What am I saying? Am I changing? Am I changing things? Am I reinventing? Because that's what people like to do. And that person with the magical shoes, that they like to wear, those little curvy shoes that look like genies and stuff. You know what I'm talking about, Congo. Because we spoke about this already. Um, that person, that's on them. If they want to walk around like that, that's fine. No one is denying that. Yeah, the lingo is very confusing because it's Bozal. All the language is codex, right? When we talk about codexes and how people speak, if you're not part of a culture, you're not going to understand it. You're not going to understand it. And that's the beauty about what Palo is, what Obia is, what Haitian voodoo is, and that's the whole thing.
yeah, it's like
And that's the
hoodoo
whole thing.
practitioners using parlor words, and I'm like, that's not correct. Because other
Yeah,
people will start getting those words confused and think that it's the same thing.
no,
Um,
and it's not.
it's like Eric.
Every practice.
Eric, your original, like for example, if I was Jewish, right,
Uh-huh.
and I also practice Palo, and I bring both of that understanding together and claim that that's
Hmm.
the right way. See, that is where it's wrong.
No, no, of course not. Of course not. I wouldn't try to do something Jewish in ritual on top of an enganga. It wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't be like getting someone who can write Hebrew and write a whole script for me, right? To lift the dead, and then I'm doing palo ceremonies with that. I can't do that. That's not heard of, right? That's not, you know. Um, um, you got magical shoes in Jamaica too. That's awesome.
That's my goddaughter, Luna Ray. There, salam alaikum. She's Jamaican, actually.
Nice, nice, nice. Um, I'm making fun of the person. I like to be. I do side stuff. I do side. At part time, I'm a comedian. So So the reality is of out of all of this, right? Out of all of this, if we can respect people's practices and people's understandings, there wouldn't be this miscommunication. There wouldn't be this clash of egos that I know more, you know less, you know, my thing versus the other, and all this stuff, right? So, let's keep practices the way they need to be, right? Within the realm of the practice, right? If you're practicing palero, then follow the teachings of your godparents. Follow the teachings of your munanso, follow the teachings of your rama, and stick with that. As simple as everything can be. People make it. People, I'm going to say it again, not the spirit.
Mhm.
People make it complicated. People make it complicated.
It's like they say, there's no bad religion or tradition. There are bad practitioners,
Exactly.
and bad religious people,
Yeah.
fanatics.
Yeah, yeah. And I've been labeled quite a few things, but uh, you know, and I don't really care, but I think about the what my godparent used to tell me all the time, and my godparents that have passed on, they used to tell me, this religion and this practice in another 20 years is not going to be the same,
It's not.
you know? And we're seeing that transformation right now. That transformation is happening now. And if we don't try to influence these types of talks so that people can get a better understanding of what they're practicing, they're going to fall at the wayside. They're going to get people doing Lucky Charm prendas with big old four-leaf clovers painted on them, saying that this is from the rite of the Scottish and all this stuff, and doing Masonic symbols and all this other stuff, and it becomes problematic. Uh, Malonganti Mayaya, Patrick, that's my godson. Um, um, you know, if we don't, you know, if we don't explain to people that there are protocols and processes, right? Protocols and processes. Not everybody has the right answer, but we all can get to it paso a paso, little by little, you know?
And that's one of the reasons why I'm against. And people tell me, right, you should make a school of teaching. I'm like, no, because my
Mm.
lineage is my lineage. If you come from Sac and Peño, it's not the same.
No,
If you
it's
come
not.
from Guindavela, it's not the same. Teaching won't matter at all. You're
No,
paying money
no.
for no reason.
Yeah.
We have
And
different tratados.
one of the things that I can say wholeheartedly, without disrespecting any of my brothers that I've worked with in the past in New York, is that our elders, they used to work together, right? And they were from different branches and different ramas and different understandings. And I realized that a lot of that calamity that they created was because they were trying to unify something that our elders back in Cuba and back in those days told us to keep separate and as one. So you see a lot of people mixing things, certain practices from one house, certain practices from another house. You'll see rituals that you'll be like, oh, well, that's Mayombe, but what is that? And what is
Well, that's
this?
why they
But
say
what is
Mayombe con Briumba, right? Briumba con
yeah.
Mayombe.
Well, and Kimbisa things and everything else, because everybody, again, you know, when you start doing adaptations, you start losing your reality,
Originality.
your reality of what you should be practicing. And so once you learn that practicality, you shouldn't move from there. Because once you move from there, it becomes problematic.
Yeah, but even in the same Mayombe houses, it's different.
Yeah. But that's why I say you have to practice what's in your munanso. What's in your munanso with your elders.
Hmm.
The immediate elders, they all get together, they have this practicality, they understand, and they formulate by doing this practicality. Other than that, there's um you know
Like
there's
un
no
juego de
room for
palo.
changing. There's no
Like a
room for changing.
like a juego de palo when the others get together.
Exactly. There's always practicalities, respect, and looking at things and learning, right? And I think that's the problem. A lot of people want to run before they walk, you know, and that's but it's interesting, because again, like when I talk about Taino practices and Taino concepts and rituals and things like that, there's a lot of embedded information in Palo that people are now understanding that it comes from more of a conceptual Aboriginal practice because it's always been there. And now that people that are adopting it, they're saying, wow, you know what I mean? they're like really understanding it. So
Is having a tree require a mayombe?
having a
Like what?
tree.
Yeah, like what are you talking about? Ceiba or you mean one of those trees where we put things in, stuff like that? That there's a lot of munanzos that have that.
Oh yeah, Golita. Golita.
Exactly, Patrick. You have to learn at the feet of your elders, respect your elders.
Yeah.
Um, it's your elders are the ones that are gonna teach you that style or what that lineage represents. And again, that's why I say I'm very against people jumping and saying, "Well, I'm gonna go to this person who's teaching Palo," but that person is, no disrespect to the lineage, is just coming here in my head the name Guindavela,
What
and
the hell?
right, and you're from Saca Empeño, Vititi Congo. It's gonna be different, guys. Everything is gonna be different. What the?
Yeah. Somebody's just being an idiot. Maybe in your house, maybe you like cream pies. Who knows? But I
It's
don't
fine.
know. But people are, they got nothing better to do.
No, what it is the live goes to everyone.
That's
So,
good. I'm glad. I'm glad because you know what it is. Sometimes you need a little bit of that psychosis that people talk so that you can see the ignorance, right?
mhm,
It's an ignorant statement from someone who's trying to get a rise out of something. And
exactly.
when you laugh about it, you take away the air from them. It's like you suck the air out of them because they have no weapons. They have no real weapons.
No, what I'm trying to say is the live goes to YouTube, and
Yeah,
anybody who's watching anything could jump into the live.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
A lot
yeah,
of times I go ahead and put subscribers only are allowed to comment.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I
yeah,
thought it was funny.
yeah.
I thought
I
it was
mean,
funny because
I leave him
because
there
see, since
sometimes.
I
I'm
have
like, yeah,
my concept, my brain is not well. So when I see things like that, it's just like, oh my god, I could say so many things, and I just got to stop because I'm in a live. I'm in
hey,
a
I'm just, you
live.
know what?
See, you
Today
see,
I
he
saw.
got the reaction. See, that's what he wanted. He says, I got the reaction that I wanted. It's worse if it gets ignored. You see,
Yeah.
he, I, I,
You know what it
I
is?
sympathize with the person. He's fucked in the head like me.
You know what? A lot of people are pissed off because TikTok is getting banned, so they're looking
Yeah,
for
yeah,
attention and fame somewhere else.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But again, like I said, I think traditional concepts in Palo, go from house to house and from understanding to understanding, and I think people just need to respect those. And once they move forward through that, they circumvent through that, and they really understand where their place is. They're not going to be so inept to want to jump from house to house to house. You know.
But how do you deal with that, Eric? This is a personal question, right?
Hmm.
But it might help somebody out there. How do you deal with somebody who comes from another house and expects to act the same and do the same things? Or we say they come from another mundanzo con mala maña.
The problem with is that it's not so much the habit or the bad habit, right? Because a maña can be altered. The
Mm-hmm.
problem is the person willing to learn.
Because they always
This
say,
is,
well, in my munan,
you
so
know,
we did this. In my munan, so we did this.
yeah,
In
and
my
and that's fine. Hey, go lay down. Hold on. Let me see if I could walk with my phone. I gotta. This dude is gonna. He's doing circles like he's got to go to the bathroom. Hold on.
Okay.
I should be
Bueno,
fine.
guys, how much more time do you have?
I have enough time. I'm good. I'm good. Go.
If you guys have any questions, you guys want to comment something, um, let me take advantage before my wife is like, okay, you gotta stop. Enough time. We
Yeah.
gotta watch. We
Mine.
gotta watch
Mine.
the Airbender show.
Mine has to. Mine is upstairs already sleeping because she has to work tomorrow. She gets up at 4. She's an early bird. you
And I'm
know.
not
So,
trying to say my wife is mean. It's a joke. I'm joking around with
no,
her.
no,
I
no,
joke
no, no,
around
no,
with
no,
her.
no, no, no. I
Right.
think again, like we were saying, I think every concept of breaking a person's habit is asking them why. Why do you have this habit? Right? Oh, in my Munanso, they used to do this, that, and a third. Okay, well, let's break it down. Let's see
Hmm.
why they did it. Because break it down to me, because if you have the habit, then you got to know why it's done. If you just tell me, oh, they did it because they did it, then that's not an answer. Because I can sit with a godchild and tell them, hey, you know what? We don't believe in the Mpungo concept, in having a pantheonic concept. Well, why, Padrino? Why? If everybody else has a Siete Rayos and everybody else has a Sarabanda and everybody else has a Chola Wenge, the reason why is because this, that, and a third. And I can sit down and break that down.
How do y'all feel about Simbi Makaya?
It's
Is
not an impungo. It's not an impungo. It's not an impungo. That's a concept. That's Simbi is Simbi, just like in Simbi Makaya in Lua, which is a Congo concept. You know, Simbi is a Congo concept that's born out of water and is endoused in fire, right? And it's called the God particle or the God principle, right? And there's many functionalities and understandings about Simbi that a lot of people don't know, right? And that's the thing, you know. And I think people have this concept that they don't understand that the Congo concept and the Petro concept, are related, you know,
Azaria? He answered that already.
you know.
Is Palo a standalone tradition? He said yes.
Yeah. Oreo, bang,
What is
Nino,
this? That's
let's
that's
go.
that's who that's who a person has to get scratched under.
Corrige.
Um, Change
Corrige.
from
Let's
a
go.
house to house. For example, if you got a reading from two different paleros, I don't understand the
Two
question.
different paletos.
Any book recommendations? The thing with books is there's a lot of great books out there that give you some understanding, but the best
Hmm.
information you can get is from your godfather, because that's how your godfather, that's how they do it in the Munan. So books just give you history. Books gives you some knowledge, like um, some information, but if you go to a Munan, so they might not even agree with any of the knowledge that you read from a book. And if you're in Mayombe and you pick up a book on Kimbisa, then you're not learning Mayombe. Or if you're Briyumba and you pick up a book on Mayombe, then you're not learning Briyumba.
Yeah, of course.
I
You
only
know, and I
ask
think
because that's a good particle that you refer to is what we consider Dambala.
Kambala Wedo. Well, that is a Haitian concept of a Loa, and Loa and Congo spirits are very different. They may have similarities, but they're very different. You know.
Yes, Matamba. Um, why why did you message? But Matamba basically said the best book to learn is from your godfather.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
I mean, there
You
are
know,
some
not
good books out there. Um, I was gonna get one out, but I don't want people tripping. I was gonna get two out, but I don't want people tripping because
Hey, will YouTube knock off? Will knock off if I light a cigar here?
No, no, go ahead.
Okay, because I know on TikTok they start doing all types of weird stuff.
No, it's fine. I got my little because I stopped smoking, so I'm with those little pouchy things. Guys, take advantage that we have Eric here and Matamba here.
I'm waiting. Please, no more cream pie statements because I then it becomes X-rated and I can't really answer that and it becomes all bad.
let me take advantage and give a shout out to a friend of mine here real quick.
Oh,
Let me
go
get
for it.
this.
Go for it.
Let me get this mess while you enjoy a few puffs. There's some books that I do recommend, and yeah, I gotta get pissed off. So some people don't like him, but the reason why I recommend this book right here, it's in Spanish for those Spanish speakers, is because there's a whole bunch of books in one book.
Mm,
Okay. There's some controversy whether he wrote it or not. I don't care about that. I care about the information. And I
uh-huh.
know there's books, there's material on Roth, there's material on Cabrera, there's material on a lot of things, right? Another book that I do recommend for beginners. There you go.
Conversation with the dead. Yeah.
Tata Matamba in English, and we have it in Spanish. Okay.
Nice.
This is for beginners. But
I'm
like I
only gonna read
always
the
say,
book if he signs it. If he doesn't sign it for me, I ain't reading shit.
El Monte is another thing that has a lot of great history. Any book of um,
Rafa
the,
Pisal.
yes,
Yeah.
Rafael Pizar
Yeah.
has a lot of
Yeah.
good information. But again, I'm gonna repeat it. The
Mhm.
best book is Your Godfather.
Yeah. So Manny asked, Manny Face asked about a question about um, if you get cut in, if you have to get cut with Sarabanda or Kalunga, all this stuff, you know, I think, I think again, if your house, if your Munanso has a main Nganga, right? Like for us is in Sasi. Everybody that comes to my house gets cut on top of Acabamundo. There's no, oh, I'm going to cut them on top of Kalunga. I'm going to cut them on top of this one and that one. Plus, I don't have that many Ngangas. The people that get a trillion Ngangas don't understand, again, the concept of Palo. Palo's not a pantheonic, you know, not cut. So, what are you talking about? Because I saw your question. You said one paleta says you have to be scratched with Saravanda, and another says you have to be scratched with Kalunga. Does it change from house to house?
It depends on the main part, right?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta again, and again, I'm talking about the main pot. You know, Dwayne the Rock is not our Lord and Savior. I'm sorry, you're confused. You
La gente está
know,
pasada, loco.
and so no, la gente tan loco, bro.
Super pasada.
But
Take
yeah,
advantage.
no,
Ask questions. I'm gonna be what about another 20 minutes here.
yeah, yeah.
And again, I'm gonna
No,
clarify
he's
this.
not.
Say my
Oh,
wife
he's not.
as mean. I just throw jokes out there, like because I'm the one that says,
I mean, if
"Okay,
anyone has any,
that's my excuse
you're
to go."
welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, yeah, no, no, definitely. But again, you know, like I said, and this is not. You don't want to see me when I'm mad. Oh my God, the elf. He's so angry.
Take advantage. A lot of you
Yeah.
guys been requesting Eric, so
Yeah,
here
I
he
mean, if you
is.
got questions, please no cream pie questions, please. How does Paulo coincide with mental health? Paulo and mental health. Look, Paulo can be a precursor to help someone strengthen their mental stability, but you have to allow the process to happen. Now, we're not doctors, right? And if a person does have a chemical imbalance, you should always take your medication. Never think that a culture or religion is going to fix that process, right? But mental health can be altered and fixed with the proper ceremonies, with proper understanding, with proper appeasement of maybe spiritual traumas, generational curses. There's so many things that can be fixed the understanding um, through the understanding of practice. You know, cancer is pretty good. I like it. It's okay. Leave them there. And again, I think, can you hurt you over the nganga and they scratch you over it? Wait, are we asking mental health? Because now you jump to another question about a padrino hurting you over an nganga. Again, Ashley, I think people have to be justified to do things. You know what I mean? We have to look at the pros and cons of why people throw brujeria to God kids, and why God kids feel the need that they have to go to other paleros to throw brujeria to godparents, right? If you have a pact with a spirit and you decide, oh well, you know what, I hate my godfather and I'm going to go to this palero to go hurt him. What do you think of godfathers or godparents supposed to do? It's going to defend themselves. Again, Palo is not Ocha. Palo's not, oh, let your Maya handle it. No, no. They can
Exactly.
be psychosomatic, yeah, Patrick.
This is not, Nganga's gonna handle it.
Yeah.
No. Um, I'll give you an example, and I'm gonna refer to myself. When people come here to get ceremonies done, or they go through the rite of passage or in Kimba, whatever you want to call it, I always
Mm,
make an oath with my godchildren, and I make say, "Do you promise never to go against us on the moon and so,
yeah.
unless it's a form of protection? Do you promise to come to us first if you have any issues, any problems, so there's no understanding?" And then after they make all these promises, then me as a Tata, I promise never to lift my hand against you just for the heck of it, unless I'm protecting myself.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's something that we do in front of the Ngangas to make sure that that Mfumbe understands.
Yeah, I think a lot of my
Um,
it
your
started over. It
sound
says your
went
sound
off.
went off. My what went off?
The sound.
The sound. Oh, the sound. Is it better now?
Nope.
Nope.
You might have to leave
You
and
might
come
have to
back.
leave and come back.
Use the
Oh,
same
it didn't
thing.
tell me that. Use the same thing. Let me see.
The same code I sent you. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you guys can hear me. Okay, good. I'm just waiting for him to send me that request again. Here we go. Mm. Can you
Hey,
hear
I'm
me?
back.
Okay, there you go.
I'm back. Hey, I think you know what happened. I think the elf did a brujeria to your life. He got mad.
Don't
But
start it, man. Don't start it,
no,
cause
no, no,
don't start it, cause then we end up in those fake pages again, man.
no. I know.
You
They'll
know
take
the beauty. You know
screenshots
what
of this.
the beauty of that is?
What?
That every time they put me on on fake pages and they defame me, I got new evidence to collect. My file is very big, and when the lawyer knocks on the door or when they get that little paper on the door that they have to appear in court, they're killing themselves.
Yeah, it is what it is,
Because
man.
pretty soon they're gonna
When you,
be getting a knocked on the door. Not only are they gonna hit for defamation of character, defamation of business,
yeah,
endangerment, and I said, why turn on a candle when I could make some money out of it?
oh yeah, yeah. That's how you embarrass people. You become smart,
Yes.
smarter.
So I just let them talk, and people send me their posts, and all I do is flip copy into the file, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, in case they delete it, because I don't
Hmm.
care if they delete it, the proof is there. Because in this
It's a
state,
digital. It's a
defamation
digital
is a
print.
yes. In this state, defamation of character and defamation of business is
Yeah.
very big.
Hmm.
Lawyers make a lot of money in this state on that. So I'm just saying, keep writing all you want. And all I see in my head is ching ching.
The number 21, it became, again, a lot of these palos grew with time because in the very concept of using 21 sticks, it became part of a technology. It was never the case.
Yep.
There's ngangas that are as old as 300-400 years that have not even one stick in it. That became a progression as people started using. Remember, this is a religion of this is a practice of growth. You know, there's songs that say 36 achero pa un
Achero pa un
palo
palo.
32.
Achero pa un
There-
palo.
Yeah, there's so many packs and differences in different munanzos. You can make an enganga without no
Tata
palos, and
Juan
then
Yane.
you know,
Tata Juan Yane de los Palomontes.
yeah,
Tanto
exactly,
Mayimbe velando un toro.
yeah, exactly. Can
It's
you
the
use
same
the
thing with the
enganga?
21 caminos. Does they say in Gangas
Exactly.
have 21 caminos?
Yeah, yeah. Ashley's asking, can you use the enganga or mess up your life for whatever reason and keep chaos in your life to have it come back? I think for a fact, I think everything is consequential. I think at the end of the day, people worry about getting hurt or being hurt and not really looking at the fact that they should be looking for the betterment of their own spirituality. And I think, you know, when we start worrying about what if, what could have been, we don't really grasp the understanding of why do people get initiated? Why? If it's not to bring a spirituality into focus or to bring your betterment into focus or to alleviate you from an illness or to protect you from something that was imminent, whether it be death, whether it be whatever calamity that was coming to you at that time, or say it was a process of your spirituality that needed to get addressed, right? People, in other words, they start going into this whole psychosis about worrying about, oh my God, what if my godfather does brujeria out of me? Or what if this person does brujeria out of me? Why did you get initiated then? Why did you go through that process? Because you're not learning. You're not learning to resolve that problem, like Matamba's saying, They should be looking for knowledge to be independent and resolve their problems. Exactly.
Oh, wait.
You know? Yeah, you gotta live your life. You know what the daily life of a padre en ganga or madre en ganga is? To to really look for your spirituality and bring you to focus, right? So a, a madre en ganga, a padre en ganga, a tata en ganga, they're looking to better their circumstances, to bring focus to their families. They're working hard. The people that don't work hard or things like that and always doing brujeria and ensadas and you see the different pages and you see the different TikTokers talking about, I'm gonna hurt this person because they talked about me. Oh my God. Like, dude, are you really that you put too much emphasis on yourself and not on your goal of what it is that you need to get to. And I think that's the problem. I think that's the main issue. So
Um,
anyway, uh-huh.
if my godfather wasn't willing to teach me, I would just have a conversation with him, and if that didn't solve it, walk away. Walk
The
away.
problem, and I'm gonna say here that a ceremony doesn't entitle you to be taught. It doesn't. You know, people have this. misconception that when you pay for ceremony, you are to be taught. It just means that now you have the open door to build a relationship with that Munanso and with the teachers that are going to guide you. But if a person comes to your house, gets a ceremony, and every 5 minutes they're like, Padrino, I need to do an ensara. Padrino, I need to do this. Padrino, I got this person, I got to hurt him. Padrino, and you never hear the word, hey, Padrino, guess what? I'm going to come by and bring some cigars and let's talk a little shop and let's just hang out and let's go out for dinner. Let's build a relationship. You
Oh,
never hear
Padrino.
that.
Oh, Padrino, how was your day?
Hmm.
And then you help him, and not even a thank you.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And it sounds like, the old cats used to say malagradecimiento, right? The person's ungrateful. But the reality is you get initiated into a family. You
No
just don't
way.
get initiated into an nganga.
Exactly.
If you don't like your family, then why are you initiated into it? And I get a lot of people like that. And when people start acting funny like that, I start stepping back. And when I start stepping back, the first thing I do, I tell them, you know what? I'm sorry, but this is not a good fit. I think you need to go somewhere else. And I will tell them, I don't care how much they paid, because building a relationship with people has no merit on money or what you spend. The knowledge that you're going to get is what you put out. You know what? I spent a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of sweat, a lot of tears with my godparents running around doing a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff, and dealt with a lot of backlash. But I got to learn. You know why? Because I was always there when they needed me, when they needed me. And the
It's a
convenience
family.
of having a godparent is the convenience of having like a father or mother. Even though some people may not feel that way, but that's the reality of why you get initiated into a Munanso, that why you get initiated into a Risha, why you get initiated into Voodoo. You initiate to pact with the spirit and pact with the family of those spirits.
Um, a lot of people think that when you get initiated to a munanzo, that derecho that you pay, that price entitles you to get everything and every problem that you have in your whole life fixed.
No. Mm-mm.
That, and I say people, you came to get an
Hey,
initiation.
baby. That's my wife.
You came to get in. She's gonna tell you it's time for you to go to sleep, man. What you
I
doing?
know. In a minute, she's gonna say, "Get off the stupid live,
you
chimoso."
know, you come to get initiated for an issue,
Hmm.
right? Or for a reason. You got it.
Yeah,
But that doesn't mean that every little problem you have, you're gonna be like, well, I paid for my initiation and expect it to be fixed.
yeah. Hmm.
If you went to the doctor because you had heart issues and you got a surgery, he fixed it. You
Hmm.
can't come back a week later and say, now I got cancer, fix it because I paid for the heart surgery.
Yeah, no, no, it
And that's
doesn't
what
work that
people
way.
misunderstand.
Yeah, no. Look, like Jay's saying, people don't leave houses for no reason. Something usually happened to make that person leave. Okay, but where's the accountability of the person that left too? Because there has to be in betweens, right? Because if you just leave because you're sour about something, or you didn't really discuss the issue, but you jumped the gun, or, some people do that. I see that a lot. I see a lot of people jump the gun. They go, you know what? I don't like it because, whatever. The person's white. They're not melanated. I don't like him. He shouldn't be teaching an African traditional religion. I've seen that. It happened here. And I laughed and I thought about it. And it was like, you didn't have the audacity to sit down and have a discussion with me about anything, but yet you assumed something, right? And that's the problem with assumptions, you know? I'll pay you Pay me 10K and I'll just sit here. Every time your godparents do asadas and cleanings for you, it costs them. Yeah, it's true. I
Ensadas,
mean, yeah,
ensadas, ensadas,
ensadas. Oh, I thought she meant carne asada. I say, yeah, it's
ensadas.
true. That's money. You know how much carne asada is? Shit.
They don't understand. It's like, okay, I'll do a cleansing for you. I'll cleanse you, and then when they leave, the amount of work that we still have to do to remove that
Yeah.
energy from the moon and so.
Do you know there are days, sometimes there's days upon days that I'm still finding things that people forgot to get rid of, bags, garbage. I'm still picking up weeks later, days later because oh man, what happened here? Where was the miscommunication? And not once do I complain. Cuz guess what? It's my house.
Or they come and expect you to serve them, like a
Yeah,
clean.
like excuse me? Yeah, like you out of your mind, you know? And that's why the yaya of the house is tough. She's tough as nails. She gets everybody to move. Okay, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that, we're gonna get this done. Because that's how it is.
And
And
that
then
they don't understand that. They don't
hmm
understand that the yaya of the house is the one that puts order too,
yeah,
sets rules. Most of the time, I'm just there, doing my thing, and then the yaya is the one that is like, "Hey, do this, do that," and it's the most hated.
yeah, the most hated because she's the one that's most vocal. Because at the end of the day, she's the one defending you. Because everybody's like, oh, well, the Tata's doing this. Yeah, it's done with love. Yeah, it's done with love. But she 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 organizes. She's the one. Oh, you know what? The clothing. Oh, guess what? I gotta set this up for the room. Let's get this ready. Let's get. I mean, yeah, we're doing the same thing too. But sometimes, we're in the mix of that ceremony too.
Is the food
So
ready? Is the table set?
mhm,
Right? Did they
yeah,
have the rompimiento? They're like running like chickens without a head, trying to be
hmm
organized.
hmm yeah,
And I tell this is something I tell my godchildren. I want you to mess up. So then I tell you, my
yeah,
wife
yeah,
is like mama bear. She's like, no, no. I'm like, babe, you care too much.
yeah,
You care too
yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah. No, no, I get it. No, she is an enforcer. The yaya in the house, man. She takes no shorts. She's the first one in the room and the last one out. So
Cleaning after,
yeah,
making
and
sure
we're
everything is
helping,
organized.
and we're helping straightening out too. It's not like I'm sitting there with my fingers crossed. We're doing things together as a team. And so that's what a munanso is. It's a kanda, it's a community. You know, it's a
That's why we
community of
used to have
people.
barrenderos,
Yeah,
mandaderos. And
yeah,
people
you
don't
know.
look, talking about that, those titles don't, a lot of houses don't use that. Now it's Tata, Tata and Ganga. They don't even understand the real title of Bakun Fula.
hmm
Where are you? I'm a Tata and Ganga Bakun Fula. I'm like, Tata and
Yeah,
Bakun Fula?
no, no. A bakonfula doesn't get mounted. A tatankisi and a tatanganga gets touched by possessed by spirit. A bakonfula, what's called gando fula, bako bilongo, doesn't get mounted. He's just the person that attends that spirituality, but they don't get mounted. They don't get possessed. They don't. It's a different entitlement. So just like what we talk about Tata and Kisi, Tata and Gombo, the
Hmm.
Tata that gets mounted,
Hmm.
possessed with the actual Infumbe, things like that.
Oh,
And those
Pero
are
and Ganga.
processes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, I heard something. I want, if I'm wrong, correct me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I even heard that a Bakun Fula is not even a Tata.
It's not.
And a
They
Bakun
shouldn't.
Fula does not possess an Nganga.
No, it doesn't. He doesn't because the engangas that he takes care of are the engangas of his padrinos.
And you cannot become a Tata. And a lot of people say, well, I'm the Bakonfula. I'm like, did you get the ceremony? Are you a Bakonfula or you acting Bakonyula
Yeah.
or in Bako? Just acting like it, but you're really not that ceremony. But no, but they did me the ceremony and this and stuff. I'm like, but
Yeah.
how can it be? You're a Tata and you possess an Nganga. I mean, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, no, that was a fight. That was a fight that happened in 2001 at Cinco de Mayo when I got initiated. You know, my standing godfather, Jose Perez Tiembla Mundo Batalla, told my grandfather that he wanted to make me a Baconfula of the Nganga.
I was like, hell no.
And when my grandfather saw me come down with the muerto, with the enfumbe,
You
he
screwed it
stopped
up.
him.
You
He
screwed it
stopped
up.
him. He stopped him. He said, "You can't touch that boy." A matter of fact, he took away the umbrella from him and said, "Him stop." He finished my rayamiento. They dissipated the spirit, brought me brought me back out, took me back in, y me rayaron de Tata en Kisi. And that's been my title since. Because my grandfather knew the responsibility of that spirituality was going to mess me up, making me a Bakonfula. So certain cuts and certain markings marks you to that. So you can't, that's the response. That's the problem with that, you know,
No más engando que engando en batalla.
you know, and so it's crazy. But anyway, on that note, I am gonna get off because we both gotta retire. The wife is gonna grab you by the neck and make you watch Airbender,
Oh
and
no,
I am.
no. I'm the one that is waiting to go see it because that's my show. I'm like, oh hell yeah. Hell yeah. She's probably asleep and I'm still watching. I'm like, what's happening next? What's happening next? And she's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you're watching that kitty show? I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that like that airbender stuff. So, but yeah, I'm just gonna chill. But thank you again for allowing me on this panel and stuff, to talk with you, and I hope people got some information, and people are gonna argue this, that's what these things are for debate, right? But let it be of understanding and not of gossip and rumor and stupidity.
Well, I always say this. If you don't agree with it, come to the live. I
Have a
invite them to
discussion.
the
Yeah.
live. If you want to discredit somebody, come to the live. You want to debate, come to the live, and we
Yeah.
have a good talk.
Yeah,
And
because
if somebody wants to go and say, Eric, I think you were wrong, I put you guys together.
I would love it. I
I
don't
could
have
have
an issue.
six people up here. You give your knowledge and your reasons why.
I have no problems with having a discussion. That's the problem. That everybody, is a keyboard gangster. So we'll leave them there with their guns at the teclas.
Yeah. But I also have to talk to you. I'll probably text you tomorrow because I'm gonna start doing some Spanish lives too. There's a lot of people asking for Spanish,
Oh
in
yeah, that'd
Spanish.
be great. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
See
And we
if
could
we
probably
could.
bring some of the Spanish paleros. Like I know a couple of paleros from TikTok that would probably love this, like Noche Oscura.
Hmm.
There's
Oh
another guy
yeah,
that
I
I,
follow Noche Oscura, man. He's great, and I
yeah,
try to
he's
get in
a good
contact
dude.
with him.
Yeah, Noche Oscura. There's a guy that I know that's a babalao, Tata and Kosi, that I know from Facebook that he's a babalao, but he still practices, palo, and there's a few other people that I know. There's a Tata Candile that's a young guy,
Okay,
also that is really knowledgeable. So there's a lot of people. So
send them over my way because I want to start doing some videos in Spanish
definitely, I'll start
because
I'll
it's a lot
start
of
reaching
requests.
out to them and I'll talk to them and see what they want to do. All right,
All right, all
all
right.
right,
Thank
bro.
you once again, brother.
All right, man.
And
You
you're
take it
welcome
easy,
here
man.
anytime. It's gonna
Blessings,
be a locutare.
blessings to everyone. All right,
Okay.
Sambia.
Right. Well, guys, thank you for being here. Don't forget, once again, this is brought to you by www.thespiritualalchemist.com for spiritual products. Please visit our website, www.thespiritualalchemist.com. It was a pleasure having you guys here, being part of this live. Um, and yes, once again, I will be doing some Spanish lives. There's a lot of people requesting that, so please don't get hurt. I'll always title and put it in the title Spanish, and then I'll put in the title English, because I want to make everyone happy. So I hope nobody gets hurt or anything like that. So thank you once again. It was a pleasure being with you. En quien Zambia lo gustara, con mucho más. Till next video.